welcome back to my channel. So if you've been following my content, you may notice two differences today. First of all, the background. I'm actually on holiday at the Lake District, but I was still really keen to film. I did mention it in my update video, and I thought it was just a nice bit of scenery in the background. And also, my hair has changed a little bit. I just added some colour to the ends, so hopefully, yeah, you think it looks okay. I kind of like it. So yes, as promised, today will be part 1 of 3 of my addiction series, and we are going to be talking today about the difference between a cocaine and amphetamine high, and also the complete destruction that it causes. So yes, they are both stimulants, and I was heavily addicted to both at separate periods of my life, and I feel like the effects were actually very different to each other, and they did affect me in very different ways. So I want to go through, so first of all I'll be talking through the cocaine side of things, then after that amphetamine, and I'll be following the same format for each one. So basically, if you haven't watched it yet, watch the overview that I posted of what this 3-part series is about, because that will help you understand what you can gain from this. And also, I'll put a link in the description, but basically, say if you've never used before, hopefully watching this video would put you off completely, because I'm not going to be glamorizing it in any way, shape or form, because there was nothing glamorous. It destroyed me. If you find you're slipping from recreational use into potentially addiction, maybe this can steer you in the other direction when you realise how bad things can get and the consequences. And also finally, if you have a family member or a friend that is struggling, and I'm going to be explaining like what the high does, but like I say, without glamorising it, it may be able to help you give them the support they need and come up with healthy coping strategies. So let's get into it. So the structure of it, each substance I will be going through 4 steps: the initial usage, the high itself, the consequence, and then finally the financial aspect, because I feel all 4 areas of them are important. I'm working off bullet points, so I will try to keep it concise as I can, but I've also got a lot to say about this topic, so I hope you watch it through to the end and that this can be of use to you, because I'm putting a lot of my passion into filming this today. So first up, we're talking about cocaine, and my method of usage, which is probably the most common you've heard of, is to snort it. So I obviously with crack cocaine as well, there's different methods of ingestion. That never appealed to me. I found it too expensive, too short of a high. Because I was so addicted, I would have cocaine so I could ration it out throughout the course of the day for how much I had. That's how bad things got. There's also, you can rub it on your gums. You can do that with amphetamines too, and it is just so bad for dental issues and stuff like that. So that is the initial usage, and the effect would be instant. And I'd make 2 lines to start off with, 2 small ones, because like I say, I was rationing it, and it felt good at first, and then it had just nosedive from there. So let's get on to that bit. Sorry, it's a bit windy now. So the best way I can explain this high, because like I say, I want the video to be educational, and like I say, there's nothing glamorous, but I'm going to try and explain the initial feeling. But please watch to the end to realise how bad things get. So say for example, there's like a big anticipated boxing match, and someone wins. So someone wins the match, they might win by like a knockout or whatever, and the crowd's all cheering. Imagine the dopamine rush they feel from that, and the sort of natural high they feel. Or maybe a singer on stage, you know, and they've written their own songs and they've got the whole crowd like singing their own song back to them. It kind of felt like that. It was like an instant burst of euphoria, an instant flood of dopamine. I mean, I could go into the science of it in another video. It's all to do with synapses and stuff, and how the dopamine receptors work. But that's how it would feel straight away. But then what I found is, from there, from the first use, you can never get that feeling back. And that's why it's so pointless and such a bad cycle to get into. And now I think we should sort of talk about the consequences and how it does go downhill. So yeah, I'd initially feel like, say, chatty. Sorry, my eyes are watering because I'm outside. I'd feel like chatty, confident, like I'd want to complete a load of tasks. And then it just changed from there, and very, very quickly. And then you're trying to find a feeling you cannot get again, and it becomes very, very frustrating. So in terms of like the journey of when I'd use it, there's not a lot to say apart from it was just not good. So like I say, you have like the initial euphoria and stuff, but that doesn't last long, and then you're chasing something you can't get back. You're spending a load of money on it because it's expensive, which we will get to when I get to that point. And I'd go from being confident and chatty and motivated to very, very quickly feeling edgy, paranoid. Also, I wouldn't be able to speak correctly. I don't know if that's because it can be used as an anesthetic, because I never like did rub it on my gums or anything like that, but my mouth wouldn't work right, my speech wouldn't work right, and it was just and then I actually heard a saying once, and this will sum it up in a nutshell, because this is pretty much the only way I can explain it. One time is too many, and 1,000 times is never enough. And another saying as well is, the only thing that cocaine makes you feel like doing is doing more cocaine. So if I thought I was going to be motivated and get tasks done, it didn't happen, I'd just go back, have another line, have another one. It could be like every 10 minutes, and you just get stuck in this cycle that you can't get out of, and then you become frightened of the come down, so you can't escape it, and you never get to that feeling you want to get to. And it gets frustrating, and that probably adds to where the agitation comes from. So I would find I would actually do very little. I just sort of sit around like really edgy and stuff, and then just doing more, and I'd spend a lot of time on my own doing that. I did not be very sociable. Once I became an addict, I'd just sit in my own place and just, yeah, that's all I'd do really. I'd have the TV on in the background, like maybe put something on to watch, and none of it would even go in because I couldn't focus on anything. And then you also become very, very, very worried about it running out. So then that takes away from the experience as well, because on top of the paranoia and the anxiety you're already feeling, there's also the utter terror that it's going to run out at some point. And say if it runs out in the middle of the night and you can't contact anyone, how the hell are you going to get through? That's how bad addiction gets to, and this is the point I want to make. My whole life became revolved around getting this substance, no matter what. It took everything over, and it's all I wanted, it's all I craved. But for what? Literally for what purpose? Now I look back on it, I see it for what it was, and it was like, I wish I'd have seen that at the time. It controlled me, and having the freedom now is like the best thing in the whole world. And just to expand a bit on the desperation I would feel to get more, if I ran out, I did actually have quite a few suicide attempts, not cries for help, like actual attempts, because I felt like I couldn't live without it, which is crazy to me now, but at the time that's how I felt. I tried to jump out of a window, and the police had to arrive and nearly got tasered. I'd taken overdoses, I had to have my door kicked in so the paramedics could get to me, because I locked myself in and took all my medication. It was just so horrendous. And it's just the fact, when I got clean, I remember the turning point was I looked at it, and I was weaning myself up, and I looked at it in the bag it came in, and I looked and I thought, this is just a little bag of powder. It's not even a person, it can't talk, it doesn't have feelings, it doesn't have emotions, and yet it has ruined my life for 4 years. It stripped everything from me, you know, my job, a really nice flat that I had. It ruined a relationship. Luckily my friendships are still solid and true because they stuck by me, but obviously it does destruct your relationships and with your family and friends at the time, because you're just so obsessed with this substance that you neglect everything else, and it can lead you to like lie and just you become someone that you really don't want to become, and you never think it'll happen to you. But that's the point of this video. If you get wrapped up in it, you really get stuck in the cycle, and I want to help people get out of that. And the final bit of the cocaine segment is to talk about the financial aspect. Wow, was it expensive. Now, I worked in sales in the past, so yeah, I had money. I had a good wage and good bonuses coming in, and I blew through all of that. So just as a bit of a comparison, so I would spend up to £450 a day. and I blew through all my savings, and I took out an overdraft, went through all that, and then I'd go to family and friends. I'd literally beg. I remember being on my knees and begging for money. That's how bad it got. It was just so ridiculously expensive, and it left me in quite a lot of financial issues that took a while to resolve. So the point I'm making is, yes, it's extremely expensive, and like I've mentioned in the video, it seems completely pointless now. I could have been set up for life if I hadn't have blown my money on this substance. So that's something to take into account as well. And I had no problem handing over this money. So I'd never treat myself to anything, you know, like if I wanted like new clothes or anything like that, it'd all go on cocaine all the time. And then I got to the point as well where I sold possessions that I cared about. I sold a laptop that I really liked, and I was gifted stuff from work when I hit sales bonuses, like a TV and a phone, and I sold them too. And I look back and I shake my head, but the thing is, it's about moving forwards, and now I am much more stable financially, but it takes you a long time to claw yourself back out of that. So I just want to say, like, that's another consequence if you get wrapped up in this, is the pure financial cost. It's bad. Now, just before we move on to the amphetamine side, because that's the cocaine bit discussed through the process I went through, I wanted to include some raw footage of how I looked on both substances. I've got videos, I've got photos, and they are absolutely horrendous. I have been advised by family and friends that it might be too gritty, if you know what I mean, to put out there right now. So what I am going to do is just insert one photo from each substance of what it did to me, like more tame photos and stuff. And if you want to see the full shebang in the future, let me know. But trust me, it's gruesome. So what I'm going to do is just insert a photo when I contracted cellulitis due to taking cocaine very heavily. I ended up in hospital on a drip, and I had septicemia. It was absolutely awful. So I'll insert that now, and then at the end of the amphetamine part, I will also insert a photo of what it did to my skin. So I'll insert the photo, and then we'll move on to talking about the process of amphetamines. Trust me, it gets pretty dark. So going through the same format again, with amphetamine, the way I would consume it. So I would do something called bombing it, which is where I'd take an amount, put it in a Rizzler, and swallow it down. Now, I do know a bit more about different options of ways you can take it. So you can also snort it, or you can inject it. Now, I never did either. Reason being, I absolutely detested the smell and taste of amphetamine. Weirdly enough, with cocaine, I actually enjoyed the taste of it. Not bigging it up, because looking back now, I would find it repulsive now, but at the time I liked the taste, whereas amphetamine always made me feel ill, so there was no way I could have snorted it. I'm also very needle phobic. I will not get blood tests, I don't like injections, anything like that, so I never injected. And one thing I want to make very clear, without judgment, because I'm not here to judge, is injecting amphetamine can be so extremely dangerous. And that's I mean, if you want to go and Google and see what goes into it to make it, because it's completely manufactured, do that. But it has like a battery acid in it, it's got a drain cleaner, all them kinds of things, so it's very dangerous. So the reason I put it in a Rizzler and bomb it is because I didn't want it to damage my teeth, and like I said, I could not snort it because it was just so repulsive to me. So that's the initial method of ingestion that I chose at the time. So the actual high for me, once it kicked in, was very different to cocaine, even though, like I said, they're both stimulants, and it would take a lot longer to kick in as well. So for people that I knew at the time that may have used it, it could kick in within like 30 minutes or less. But for me, it would always take around 1.5 hours. I don't really know why. I don't know if that's because I had it in a Rizzler, or for what reason, or just the way my metabolism works, because I have some issues with eating and stuff. But with cocaine, sometimes I was sold things that were like a dud and had no effect, and I never had that issue with amphetamine. So I knew it'd take an hour and a half to kick in. So what I'd do is, because I get impatient and I'd want the feeling straight away, so I'd take the bomb, like I'd bomb it, and then I'd do something to keep me busy, like say blitz the kitchen or do a workout or something until it started to kick in. Now I need to make this very, very clear. You must listen to the consequence of this, because the level of destruction that this did to my body and brain is absolutely incomprehensible in terms of hospital admissions, severe psychosis, everything. So I will be talking about the initial high again, because I'm following the same format and this needs to be educational, but please don't ever think it's a good idea, because I'm going to explain to you exactly what it did to me. And just a heads up, it has left me with permanent brain damage, so I'll have to be on medication for life, and that's just the way it is. So basically, from when it'd kick in, I discovered I'd have like about a 6-hour window of productivity before things got really, really bad, and then I'd enter psychosis and just be all over the place, and we'll get to that bit. But when I say 6 hours of productivity, it actually wasn't, looking back, it was false. So say like if I wanted to do some writing, yeah, I'd do the writing, but because I was like 100% focused on what I was doing, I'd just ramble, and what I'd be, the way I'd be doing it is like, I'd look back on it later and think, well, that was a waste of time. It was a complete waste of time. Or like say if I wanted to clean something, for an example, I'd just clean the same patch over and over and over and over again, just impulsively, and I could not stop. And there was one time I sat, because I was so absorbed in something I was doing, and it ended up being a complete waste of time when I look back on it, like I say. And I was sat on one of my legs and I didn't know, because I was that focused, I didn't realise, you know, normally you get pins and needles, you're like, oh, I better move around. Well, I didn't. And I ended up with nerve damage for over 6 months. I nearly had to have surgery. They said they thought it was something called Morton's neuroma, I think, which I think is like a cyst on a nerve, and that came from purely because you're just so hyper focused. But it's not like, don't think you can just take it and you'll get good work done, because you'll get work done, but it'll count for nothing, because your brain ain't working right, so you just become obsessed with one tiny little aspect of it, and then you look back and it's like, I could have done better if I'd have done that without taking this. So yeah, like in all honesty, I would get some tasks completed under the influence of this drug, and that's why I would take amphetamine, is because I love being productive and getting things done. I'm always really motivated. I get a dopamine hit when I complete tasks, and then now I'm clean, I realise I'm better off just doing these tasks steadily away with a clean mindset. And this is no promotion. I don't know if you've seen my videos on Brainzyme on my channel, but and I'm not trying to sell it to anyone, this is just what works for me. I take Brainzyme each day now, and honestly, it gives me the same level of focus to be able to concentrate and get stuff done. It also enhances my mood, because I get the elite version, and it doesn't have the nasty, horrible effects that I'm going to talk to you about soon. So what I'd advise is, like, if you ever think you want to do it because you want to get work done, like, I wouldn't advise it. Just do it when you're clean and with a sound mind, because otherwise any work that you do is actually false. So once the 6 hours of productivity passed, that is when things started to get really bad. Like, you're talking like severe psychosis. I'd be all over the place, basically a walking nightmare. I didn't have a clue what was going on in a fantasy land. It was horrible. And what I found was I used to use tiny doses of amphetamine, and only maybe take it every 6 to 8 hours, or even longer sometimes, maybe like 12 hours. Whereas with cocaine, it could be every 10 minutes. And it just had such a strong effect on me, and not in like a good way. And things would just really rapidly decline. And that's how I ended up in hospital. I had the start of organ failure, which I will discuss, because we're going to go in into the consequence now of what happens after the initial high. And this is really horrendous, but I feel like you need to hear it, and I need to be honest. So I'm just going to be upfront with you and say what it did to me, and hopefully that makes you understand that it's just not a good idea. So basically the consequence was, I say like the first 6 hours passed or whatever, but with cocaine, say, just backtracking a bit, I'd use for maybe 3 days max in a row. purely because of the financial aspect. I couldn't afford to keep going on, so I'd have to like have a little break, get some more money together, and then get some more. Now with amphetamine, and I will talk about the cost and the financial aspect of that at the end, it was up to 10 days at a time, which you can imagine being awake for 10 days send you absolutely loopy. So by day 2 I would be in full-blown psychosis, full-blown. And now this is actually very, very common with amphetamine use. People can obsessively pick at their skin. Now if you watch my channel and you know a bit about me by now, you'll know that I do suffer with severe eczema anyway, and this made it so much worse. So I'd literally just zone out and obsessively pick at my skin for up to 10 days straight. I know that sounds crazy, or maybe like I'm exaggerating, and I'm not. It was all I could focus on. Even like my hand, I could just look at my hand and just, I don't know how to explain it. It was just like, just a complete obsession. And what I'm gonna do is just, like I said, I wanted to insert a photo from what both substances did to me, so I will insert a photo as well. I'll try keep it more tame because I've got worse ones of exactly what this substance did to my skin. Because what you got to think is, and this is the way it works, your body doesn't know how to process it because it's all chemicals and stuff, so it literally pushes it out and you like sweat it out, so you have like these huge open sores and stuff. And it's I don't know if you've seen them like adverts online to put you off, like say taking meth and stuff. That is the reality. It causes really bad skin issues. I assume even people that don't previously have eczema. So if you're squeamish, look away. I'll insert that photo now, and then we'll carry on with more of the consequence because I've got more to say on this topic. So the psychosis I would go into would make me do extremely erratic and strange things. And literally the only way I can think to explain it to you is, you know when you have a dream and you don't question things that wouldn't happen in real life. It's just a dream. So it's like sometimes I dream I'm like back in the past and I don't question it. So it's like you're dreaming whilst you're awake, and you probably are, like you probably, when you get to like day 5 and stuff, you probably are actually like sleeping at the same time as being awake. But honestly, it's petrifying, absolutely petrifying, some of the things that happened. And I'll put a link to my drug-induced psychosis video on this as well, because I've got a few stories of real life situations I went through that might be able to explain this to you. Even now I'm on olanzapine, I still suffer from psychotic breaks, and I don't use anymore, and I have to live with the fact that that is caused by what I did to my brain, because it's such a dangerous substance. It would also lead me to have very vivid hallucinations. One example is when I saw my grandma just appear in my room. She's passed away, and I really loved my grandma, and there was no question in my mind that she was there. And I actually shouted my dad to come see her, and as he came up the stairs, because obviously I was shouting and he was panicking, she just sort of disappeared in front of my eyes. And I said, "Grandma's there, grandma's there." And the thing is, when I was hallucinating on this substance, people didn't believe me. I'd get so angry. It's like, how are you not seeing it? Why are you questioning me? It's there. And it's very distressing, and also made me quite difficult to be around, because I look like a crazy person to them, but in my mind I'm thinking, how can you not see it? Look, you know what I mean? Also, another point to make is I would not eat, sleep, or even drink anything during this time. So I thought, sorry, watery eye again, I thought they say that after 3 days of having no water you die. I don't think that's true, because I'm sure I've gone 3 days without drinking anything, because I just would forget completely. None of it mattered. I'd just be so zoned out, and that's when I ended up getting very severe dehydration and did have to go to hospital. So that's another thing it makes you do, is you don't take care of yourself. The only thing I do is still brush my teeth. I don't know why. I think it's because I've got OCD about brushing my teeth, and I'd get in the bath a lot as well, and that was to kind of like get the substance to get out of my skin. And honestly, like the state of the bath, I could have like 3 baths a day and it would just keep, it's just, that might be too much information, but you need to know the reality of this. And one final thing I forgot to mention is the seizures it caused. I had quite a few seizures on this substance. So one time as well, your arms do what they want. They just go around, you can't control it. it's really frustrating and scary. And when I've taken for a bit of time, like a couple of days in, even though I was only having tiny bits, I did have quite severe seizures in bed. Well, I say quite severe, very severe. I'd be riding around sweating all over the place. It was literally like that film The Exorcist, word for word. It was like that, and it's terrifying, and that genuinely could have killed me. So I just want to explain the severity of that too. Now for the final section, before we reach the conclusion, is the financial aspect. So yes, amphetamine worked out a lot cheaper. So say, I don't know, £40 could keep me up for days and days and days, and that's the problem. And unlike cocaine, which I was very possessive about, I would never share. I would ration it out, like I mentioned at the beginning, and I never ever had any left over. I'd always just use till it had gone. With amphetamine, there was quite a few times that I took it so far that I'd have to literally stop taking it, and I'd have left over, and then I would get rid of it once I'd gone through the come down. So I'd never thrown cocaine away, but I had thrown away amphetamine quite a few times because my body just physically couldn't go on. So yeah, financially it is cheap, and that's probably because of what goes into it. It's just not good. But what I need to say is neither substances are good, and hopefully this video illustrates that. So yes, cocaine is a lot more expensive, but both will destroy you in separate ways, and hopefully the images that I put into this video will illustrate that. And like I say, I've got much more gory ones in the future and videos too, if you ever want to see it for the reality of what it does. So now the conclusion, and basically what I need to say is, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. I hope I kept this concise enough. I could literally talk about this topic all day long. I've got so much to say. So if you have any further questions or you want future videos on this, I am more than happy to do so. It's taken quite a lot of bravery to film this today, but I feel like it's necessary to do this. And also, yes, in terms of healthy coping strategies. So basically I was using these substances to mask my pain, my emotional pain and my mental health issues, and ironically they were making them so much worse. And now I've got healthy methods that I use, and I'd love to talk about those too in a future video, so that you can know that you can break this cycle, because all it leads to is further unhappiness and destruction. Whereas now that there's a wasp. Now that I'm clean and happy and have been for quite some time, I want to be able to help others to see there is a way forward. And when they say, like, you know, when people are in recovery and they say they've got a new lease of life and stuff, that's not a cliche. It's generally true, genuinely true. And I wake up every single day grateful, and I don't even really suffer with cravings now, which is phenomenal, because I can look back and see what it did. But when you're wrapped up in it at the time, you can't. So hopefully this video can help you realise there's a way forward, and I'm happy and healthy. I mean, realistically, maybe I get the odd craving every now and again. I never actually get one for cocaine, ever, since I got off it 3.5 years ago. Not had a craving for it. Amphetamine, sometimes I get the odd craving that comes up, but it easily passes, and it's not very frequent. So if you want me to do stuff on like how to deal with cravings and relapse prevention and stuff, I can do that too. Because if it does ever hit me, the thing is, I'm just completely upfront and honest with my family and friends. So if it does ever hit me and I think like, oh, I feel like I want to maybe go off and take it, even though I know the consequence it'll cause, I'll just open up to someone and tell them, and then just have an open and upfront chat, and then go through like distraction techniques and stuff, and it always passes. And then I'm always so pleased afterwards I didn't go back to it, and I promise you that. So if them kind of videos would be helpful talking about relapse prevention, just let me know. I've got so many tips tailor-made to me that could maybe work for you too. So that brings us to the end of today's video, and I just hope it helped explain maybe why people turn to these really destructive substances, and just give you a little bit of background into it, but also to understand that there's other ways of going around things, and you don't have to be trapped like this. Like, you can become healthy, happy and free, and that is what I guess my main purpose of this was. So what else? Oh yeah, so I basically lost such a a significant period of my life to my addictions. I believe it was ages 18 to 23. I might have got that wrong, but off the top of my head, that's what I think it was. So now I just move forwards, and I feel happy, I feel motivated, I feel content, and I don't have to wake up every day worrying about sourcing substances anymore. I can just wake up and enjoy the day ahead, and that's just what I want to reach out and say, is that it is possible, and I want to help as many people as I can. So part 2 of this 3-part series will be coming out when I get back off my holiday, and it will be solely focusing on the come down, because obviously I haven't discussed that really in today's video. I wanted to keep it separate, and I'm not going to be sugarcoating it, because it is genuinely horrendous, and you need to know the truth about what the come downs are like, and again, they're different for the different substances. So I hope that again can be educational, and then the 3rd part will be actually helping you get through a come down, because like I say, this isn't about judging. If you are struggling, I want to be able to help. So I just want to say so much love to you all, and I really hope you like my content. You did say you wanted to hear about the addiction stuff, so I hope this is something you want me to be posting, because that's what I've been asked to do. And just leave a comment if you've got any questions on anything I've mentioned today. I am more than happy to respond and to help in any way I can. If you've got any other kind of content you want me to do, let me know. I've got plenty of video ideas in different categories of things that interest me, so stay tuned for the future content and for part 2 to be uploaded when I get back off this beautiful holiday. So I'll do it as soon as I can. And I love you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And if you haven't already, this is cliche, but please like, share and subscribe, because honestly, when I see a new person subscribe, or I get a lovely comment through, it makes me so happy, and I do put a lot of effort into these videos. So I love you all so much, and have a wonderful day. Ciao for now.